April 10th, in the midst of a global pandemic, as it turns out. We are streaming live from Steve's basement, where bandwidth is sometimes a challenge. I think I've got like 2 megabit per second upstream, so hopefully it won't be buffering too much for you. And this afternoon we're going to look at working on devbetter.com, which is an ASP.NET Core application using clean architecture. Been playing with it a little bit lately. Hey, we're up to 3 megabits per second. Not bad. I gotta get that upgraded. Alright, so hopefully this is good enough quality for you to listen. Let me jump to the Twitch and just listen in myself, make sure audio sounds good. Hey, test. Sweet. Alright. Who we got here? Let's pull up Chatty. Surly Dev, welcome. How's it going? Kate Sky, I saw you in my user group talk last night. I did a talk, by the way, on clean architecture last night. It was with YouTube, Salt Lake City Net search, and it was this right here. So if any of you want to learn about clean architecture with ASP.NET Core, this talk's out there on YouTube now, and I'll post it here in the chat for you. And if you have any questions either about that presentation or any of the stuff we're going to talk about today, feel free to mention it in the chat. Alright, so that's good. We're working on this site, devbetter.com. This is my group coaching site, which you could join if you want. There's a small monthly fee to kind of keep everybody dedicated to it and focused on actually improving. And we have a pretty small group. It's about 5 or 6 of us at the moment that are pretty regular. And we meet once a week live and just answer any questions people have about tech, career, what should I be learning, how can I get better, how can I find the next job, how can I get my next contract. It's a real good group of people that I'm pretty happy with. So there is a website, this website, that goes along with it. It's hosted on Azure. It's built on ASP.NET Core. It's using my clean architecture template, which you'll find on GitHub here. And so you can go out to GitHub and find this and fork it or download it and use it for yourself. It's a really good starting point for following clean architecture principles in ASP.NET Core, and it's updated to 3.1. Has everything you need. It's got all the different kinds of tests you would want. It's got everything broken out neatly into different projects, and it's basically ready for you to go. All right. So now let's go look at my DevBetter Web project. This one's also open source. So if we go to github.com, that one, I've got some issues here. I've got issues, right? And we're going to look at what we want to work on today. So this thing has continuous integration and continuous delivery set up. So every time I push to master, assuming it passes the tests on the GitHub pipeline, it's using GitHub Actions here, it will actually deploy it immediately to Azure. So if I make any changes here as we go today, which I'm sure I will, you'll see those happening. It takes about 3.5 minutes typically for that to take place, which is not bad. Alright, so pull requests. I have a pull request. That could probably go away. I don't know if I still need this. I've obviously forgotten all about this. Let's see. That looks almost identical. Default connection string. Okay. Well, given that things are currently working, I don't want to mess with that, I don't think, because I want the one that I have out in Azure to be correct, right? So when it looks for that thing in the configuration of the site, I need it to be the right name, and that is default connection. Alright, and this says, hey, change default connection string to default connection. That sounds like it's a good change to take. Alright, well, I'm not sure why I never brought this in. Let's just take it And what could possibly go wrong? So I can't approve my own pull request. And this is in draft. Why is it in draft? Ready for review. Okay. Is it going to say it's out of date? No, it can still be merged automatically. Well, the worst thing that'll happen is I'll break my connection string and I'll just have to undo it. So let's try it. I don't like having a pull request sitting out there for weeks. Alright, so in a few minutes, if that all passes, well, I'm not going to delete it just yet, just in case I need to use it to revert that change. But that should go through. And let's go to my location here and do a pull, and I can get that change that just got pushed in there. So I'm up to date there. And this is my, let's go and close everything. Alright. Default connection, that looks good. That can go. And there's a lot of magic strings in here. Well, those are configuration section names, that's probably fine. Default connection, that's good. Alright. Probably at some point I want to make this a constant just so I don't have that magic string in multiple places. We can just do that right now. I don't need the whole thing with that. Alright, so you're going to connect to that, and you're going to connect to that, and that should be a little better. Alright, let's see if GitHub is finished working on this thing. Hey, Telenasty, thanks for the follow. You're not even here. You're following me and you're not even here. Alright. So this build is in progress. We can drill in and see what it's doing somewhere. Oh, here it is. Click over here. There we go. So already built, already tested, and it's doing a deploy. So we'll find out in a moment if that just totally broke my site. Alright, now I'm going to create a new branch. And we'll call this Ardalis cleanup, I guess, for now. And say add dot, git commit, make connection, string name, a constant, which I'm only doing because I'm using it in more than one place. If it were only in one place, I'd probably leave it alone. And git push, right. And this is why I use code for my Git stuff usually, is because I have to do this every time otherwise. This is the most annoying thing. Code or even Visual Studio will take care of that for you. But I really hate Team Explorer. The Team Explorer tab in Visual Studio is just clunky. So I much prefer... oh, there you are, Telenasty. Alright. You've got an ampersand in front of your name. That's why I didn't see you at first. So here's my chatty app, right? And I don't know what all the symbols in front of people necessarily mean. I'm sure they have some profound meaning. But yeah, thanks for following, and thanks for listening to Weekly Dev Tips. Appreciate it. And somebody that knows more about Twitch than me can tell me what the ampersands and carrots and whatnot mean. Wrench is a staff badge. Are you on Twitch's staff? That's awesome. Does the ampersand correspond to this wrench somehow? Right, because there's an ampersand, but that's not here. But here you got your wrench and your other Twitch badges. Like those I get. I understand some of those. But I don't know what staff you're on. I guess I could go and open that URL. Twitch is building this. Okay. I'm guessing you work for Twitch. Is that what I should guess? That's awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Cool, cool. Alright. where were we? You're a developer at Twitch. You rock. Good job. Twitch is awesome. Yeah, so we cleaned up some junk while we were killing time, waiting to see if our build would work, and it probably passed by now. Everything pushed, which means that if this thing doesn't just blow up and die, then we're probably in good shape. Come on, Azure, restart. There it goes. Right? Restarted. And I should be able to log out, because one of the connection strings that it messed with was my identity connection string. So being able to log in is a good test that it's working. Thanks, Nasty. Okay, so we're good. That pull request did its thing, which is fine. I don't like having pull requests hanging out there. Cleanup I'll work on in a minute. Okay, so here's my list of open issues. First, I would really like it if folks that were members, subscribers of DevBetter could go and view all of our past coaching sessions and see the recorded videos. Because I've got recorded videos going back 2 years of all kinds of topics we've discussed, and they've got all the topics are indexed. So we like have notes every week that we say here's questions that were discussed and when and things like that. And so the general idea with this site is that you would have this list of questions, and that page is broken, so maybe that's what I'll fix first. Shouldn't you just be like /questions? No? That's not good. And then videos. Videos works. Okay, so you'd have this list of videos, and if you went to a list of an individual video, like this one, you'd be able to see the show notes. This is all not quite done code because it's not working yet. But the important thing is you'd be able to actually watch the video. And I only have a few requirements for these videos. I want them to be password protected, so you can't just download the thing from the site and then end your subscription or whatever. You can't just share a link to the video in its S3 bucket or its Azure Blob Storage bucket, and people can just grab it directly, kind of hotlink it. So it needs to be able to stream securely to the browser. I'd like to be able to have controls for speed, so you could watch the thing at times 1.5 or 2x or whatever speed, because I think that's important for people to be able to quickly consume the content. And you need to be able to link to a particular point in time. So YouTube has 2 out of 3 of these. YouTube doesn't let you put it behind a secure wall, and it's actually pretty easy to download crap off of YouTube. But leaving that aside, YouTube will let you modify the speed, will let you do a hyperlink to a location. Because when you go to the questions page, which currently is broken, so we'll fix that straight away. Questions link and page do not work. Click the questions link in the main nav, and it doesn't. And it goes to the home page. Alright, so there I have something to work on. So anyway, back to the issues, these other issues. These long-standing issues here down at the bottom that talk about like display the video in a player, I haven't found a good solution for this. I have looked at Azure Media Services. I have looked at something called Stream, I think it was called, that Microsoft has. I've looked at Office 365. There are ways to do this, but all of them require a whole lot more research and knowledge than I want. Right? I don't want to have to learn about DRM and codecs and things just to be able to drop secure videos in my application. So if any of you know about a good solution to this, preferably in .NET, that would let me have those basic features of security, speed changing, hyperlinking to a location, let me know, right? Send me an email, pop something in the chat. I'd appreciate it. So I'm not going to work on these right now because I just don't know how I want to proceed. I still need to do research and find the right solution. This one would be pretty easy. This one would be pretty easy, but this one's actually a bug. So let's go in and fix this thing right here that I just discovered. So label, let's say that's a bug. Assign myself. We're going to work on this right now. Alright, so in my cleanup branch, which is now being my bug fix branch, let's run this thing locally. Let's see if we get the same issue locally. Now the questions page is meant to be public. So, like, notice here I am on localhost. I'm not logged in. So if I go to questions, that should go to questions and should work. But as we saw on the real page, it's not. So why not? It's just a Razor page called, well, it was a Razor page. What happened to it? I thought I had a Razor page called questions. When did that get nuked? Right. Huh. Was it a view? No. That is rather odd. Let me go see what is going on here. We'll go in the code. We'll look at our commits and look for, hey, here's where I deleted all the questions page. No. That's going to be funny when that pull request I just merged actually deleted questions and I didn't notice it. Let's look at that again. Where's my commit? What did you do? No, that's all fine. Alright, let's go back in time. Under here, there used to be here, I think, questions. And if I go, no, not quite. If I go to history, I should be able to see, let's just go back there. And can I view the folder from here? I don't want to see everything about this commit. I want to see what the folder looked like at this point in time. One of these is that. Alright, browse the repository at this point, yes. So let's jump back to, let's say here, and browse the repo. And so now I'm back in time around early March. And in here, still not there. Alright, let's go farther back. Here's a question page right there. Someone messed with it. What'd you do? Last October. Alright, well, let's check it out. In here. There it is. There's this questions page. So what happened to this question page? Alright, here it is. Let's open it in Git History. So Git History is pretty cool. It lets you see what the history of this file looks like. So here's the that's a Chrome plugin that I added. So if you don't have Git History there, you need to just go to github.githistory.xyz here. And then if you do a search, you can find this Chrome plugin, this Git History Browser extension. It'll add that button in GitHub for you. But this lets you use your arrow keys and see what changed in the code, right? And it's animated, so you can see, okay, here's where I had video title, and I swapped that out and added the created date on there. And then Joe, modified it some more and showed this stuff. And then at some point, this thing got moved, and I don't know why. Just weird. Alright, so this looks like just about the last commit. Alright, here's the history. He didn't remove it here. So where's it get removed? I mean, it's not like it was being used because it was never fully wired up, but I would like for it to exist again. So let's go look at this commit, see what happened. Archive videos, notes, questions discussed. I see. So that got moved out of questions and into video details. I see. Alright. And I missed that at the time. I didn't realize it was a move. I thought it was a copy. So I'm fine to have the questions be in the video details, but I also want them to be in this questions file. So let's just pull that back. Let's see, what's the easiest way for me to get that back in there? I'm sure there's some Git way to do it, but I'm just going to do a new page in here called questions. Add a new Razor page. Yes, Razor page called questions. Generate that, use that. Sounds good. Perfect. And I think that this page ought to look an awful lot like this. And that's going to be ugly. Let's see, view this as... There, that's better. Much better. Alright, so we can just copy this. Seems to be my last good version of this file. And we'll put it in here. Alright, and then I want the code behind as well, so here's the code behind from 9 months ago before it got nuked. We're just going to take this bit. We'll put that in here and right there, and then we'll fix up the using statements. I'll take that. Don't need that. Okay. I'm hitting Control Dot to fill in my using statements. Alright. And I have since turned on nullable reference types, which is a C#8 feature. And so anywhere something might be null, it's going to yell at me about these things. So I'll just do a guard clause. Do I have guard clauses in here? Yes. Guard.against.null context. Alright, so guard clauses are another NuGet package that I have, and they will verify that things are not null, which should fix the context one. These lists, though, are not initialized, so we'll just new them up. Why is that so hard? It should have auto-completed that for me. Alright, and you probably want link or entity framework. There we go. And so that gives us our two lists. Let's see if we can navigate to questions now. I need to write a test for this to verify that this is actually working, because if this page suddenly ceases to exist, I'd like to know it again. Because that went undetected for apparently a long time. Alright, so here we go. Questions. Look at that, it worked. Alright, so these are obviously just placeholder data, it's not real yet. You'd like to be able to go to a particular video at a particular time. You'd have to log in. I think that works, yeah. So here's my video player that's not working yet, and here's how you could jump to different locations in it and all this. I'd like for this to work, right? It's not there yet, but we fixed this bug. So we now have a questions page again, and it looks good. Nothing here looks like it needs to be fixed. Let's add a test that that page actually exists, so that this doesn't happen again in the future. So under tests, we're going to see if we have any integration tests for the website. And this thing hits the home page. It doesn't actually run right now. I don't know why. I've forgotten why. So let's run this test and see if it blows up. Alright, it passes, so we'll keep it. So I want something like this. Alright, I don't really like this name anymore. I've gotten away from should. So home controller index returns view with correct message. So that sounds great. Alright, now we're going to copy this test. Well, fix that there. Alright, copy this test and make it work for questions. So questions page get, let's say. Sounds good. We're going to go here and say questionos. Questions. There we go. Should have a successful status code and some other stuff. Now, it shouldn't require authentication. And let's just pull this over into its own file and jump there. So this should just work without me having to pass any credentials. That's not going to be a good thing. Let's go back to, what do we see? Are we still running? No, it's still running. Hang on. Yeah. That stopped. Let's run it again. Hi, thanks for the follow, Sayugi. Appreciate it. Alright, so what does questions have? What can I look for on this page? I think we could look for questions discussed. That's disgusting. Come in here, and we'll say we're looking for that string. Dang it. I always accidentally hit Control-C again instead of Control-V there. Alright, now that's good. Let's see if it runs. So we're going to run our tests. And we can just look at this little blue icon right here to tell us if it's going to pass. And it passed. It's green. Alright, so perfect. Okay, so I am going to keep that. That doesn't tell me whether or not it's working in production. That just tells me that it's working, you know, at build time. But that's good enough for me for now. So at least tells me that that page is there. And if somebody goes and rips it out again, like, it's probably me. I don't know. I'll have this test there that says, hey, don't do that. Alright, so let's do a push and see if we can get this out to production. So our cleanup branch, we'll say git status, git add all the things, adding questions page and test back in, git push. Now we're ready to do a pull request because we're not on master. So we'll jump back in here, go back to pull requests. It's going to see that we have this branch out there, which is nice, and suggest that we do a pull request. I'm going to say cleanup and fix questions page bug. Add back in questions page, add a test for questions page. Create the pull request. And you shouldn't be letting me squash and merge yet, should you? There we go. You're supposed to have this thing. Do I not have branch protection on this? Maybe it's because I'm an admin. So branch protection is a really nice feature in GitHub. We can go in here and you can say, hey, I want this master branch to be protected, and it should require status checks passed before merging. But it doesn't include administrators currently. So I could check this block and it would make it so I would have to do it too. I'm okay with leaving it like that for now, because sometimes I like to just commit to master on this to be expedient. But I will wait for this build to pass before I will merge that. So got a question. Tony Davis. Hi, Steve. Joined the stream when you were talking about enabling NRTs. Why do you still need guard clauses with NRTs? I missed that part. Oh, nullable reference types. You need to be sure that things are not null in your code if you don't initialize them directly. So that was in here. And I brought in this appdb context and I declared this appdb context here. And if I didn't have this, I thought it was yelling at me, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just was fixing something that didn't need fixing. Because it was also yelling about these two. But yeah, maybe I don't need that. Let's see what happens if I get rid of it. We'll do an actual build. That might have just been me reacting too quickly. So that's a good catch. Yeah, I think we're good. So good, you're right. Yeah, I shouldn't need that. I shouldn't need as many null checks because I have nullable reference types. So since I didn't declare this as nullable, it's going to be certain or assume that, that this thing is not null coming in. So we'll commit that and add it to our pull request before we merge it. Remove superfluous guard check. Cool. Less code is better in this case. Alright, so now we're here and that is there, and everything's good, and our build passed, and theoretically I changed it, so we should wait for it to build again, but I'm going to be fast and loose on this one and just merge it in, and we'll delete the branch. Now it deletes it on GitHub, not locally. Ooh, and I didn't reference my issue. I should have done that. So issue number 92, we'll make a note. Fixes number 92. Comment. Now, if I did that when I merged it, it would detect this and it would automatically close that bug. I don't think adding it as a comment will do that. No, so I need to close this directly. But it is linked here now, so it sees that that was what fixed it. So I can close the issue. All right, now locally, I need to git checkout master. Good trick here is if you hit minus, it'll go to the last branch you were on. So you can do that. It's kind of like swapping between two branches is easy, right? And then I need to pull to get my latest change. Okay, so now there's questions and all the other things we just modified. Let's go back to our issue list. Meanwhile, this is building and deploying, so we'll go check on the site here in about 3 minutes. Hey, Rick Hatter, how's it going? Rick Hatter's in DevBetter with me, so he's benefiting from any updates we make to the site here. All right, questions is going to be broken here for now. Let's look at our list of issues. I wanted to add some fun things here. So Project Euler is something I work on sometimes. I think I've done a few streams with it. And I wanted to add my friend information onto here and let other members add them as well. Also wanted to send an email when a user is added to a role. That's a pretty easy one actually. So, and we could also change this here. I was going to modify this and say raise an event when they're added to a role and create an event handler to go to Discord. So let's do that. That sounds more fun. And then I had some other work I wanted to do related to that with development versus production Discord stuff, which probably we'll run into as we work on this. So let's create a new branch. Let's do this one. So this is number 49. We're going to notify when users added to a role. So let's go create a new branch. Not there. There. Ardalis, whack, notify when user added to role. Well, that's way too long, but oh well. Okay, so let's go in here. Where are users added to roles? That seems like a good place to start. Well, let's run this and we'll show you what that code looks like. Thanks again, Tony Davis. That was a good catch. Alright, so if I log in here as an admin, and there's some boilerplate code. If you grab this yourself, you'll see what my super secret passwords are for admin and test user or whatever that was called. It's all in a seed data script that runs in development mode, which is I think in here maybe auth constants. Yeah, there's my auth constant password. All right, and these are my roles. So this whole thing is open source. You can go and see it all. The only thing that's not in there is like the the Azure credentials and the SendGrid keys and stuff like that's not there. But you can pull this down and look at it and see how it all works yourself and play with it if you want. And send me a pull request. Take one of those issues and knock it out for me. All right. But as far as the role stuff goes, once you're logged in as an admin, you click on the admin tab here. And you can see all the different users. And you can see what roles they're in. Here's their roles. So if I go to Steve at Ardalis and I view Steve and I say add a role, and we select the role and we say add them to administrators, add role, then that should send a notification. That's what we want to achieve. We can also remove, and we can also do it in a different place, right? So we can go into roles, say admins, and we can add a user and pick a user who's not currently in the role and add them. That should send the exact same notification, but it's in an entirely different page in a different part of the site. So we need to take our solution we're about to do and apply it to multiple locations. Now we could just copy paste a bunch of code, but then that's going to be a maintenance problem later, right? That's adding technical debt to the system. So let's see if we can come up with a better way. So in here we have an areas section with different pages, and one of those pages is that where it is? Sorry, no, not there. That's the built-in authentication stuff. It's in this admin section, right? So there's a user Razor page, and let's start there. And in this user Razor page, there is a get and there's a post, and the post is called add user to role async. That sounds promising. And so right about here is where I think I want to add some code that's going to actually send this notification to Discord. And I'll open up Discord in a minute so we can play with it and see if it works. The trick with that is I'm going to need to, let's get that started. I'm going to need a command prompt with an environment variable set so that I can talk to Discord. GitHub, better. So I'm going to take this over in the other monitor and take my Azure settings. That's not what I want. Don't need any of this anymore. This one. So I'm going to go to my Azure portal here, and it has my Discord webhook URL that I want. So I'm going to bring that over here. And we're going to set an environment variable called Discord webhook URLs colon admin updates equal, and then grab the actual value. Cool. Alright, now I can go into web. We can clear out the window like this, and we can just .NET, if we're really smart, we can do .NET watch run, so it'll restart anytime I change anything. Let's see if this works. Boom. Didn't like something. Oh, because I already got the other one running. That's why. Close that. And then it just wants something to change, so save that, and it should kick off again. And now it's running. Alright, so now on localhost 51815, I should be good. So let's open up Discord and go to my admin updates section of DevBetter. Over here. Is there a way to make that full screen or something? Pull it into its own window, I wonder? No, not really. Alright, so here's my admin updates channel for bots and notifications. You can also see everything I'm doing with GitHub is showing up in here. So I've turned these notifications on. This is using webhooks. And I just did a blog post on this a couple days ago. So if you want to see how all that comes together, I point you at that blog post, which is right about here. Add Discord notifications. Look at that. It's the very first one. Paste it in the chat for people. If you do a search for Ardalis Discord notifications, you'll probably find it. Okay. But that's already set up. So, and it's working for a few things. It's working for when someone registers, for example. So let's go look at register. And the way it's working is we're passing in a domain event dispatcher, and then we're using that domain event dispatcher to dispatch a particular event. And this event is a new user registered event that has information about that user's email. So we want to do essentially exactly this. Hey, Martin Connor, thanks for the subscription. So we're going to take this line of code right here. We're going to go in user in the spot that we found that we want to do this work. And we're going to raise this event here, but we're going to give it a different name. Alright, so our events are part of our domain model. So this new user registered event here inside of core events, we want to change this to something about user added to role event, let's say. So we'll just call it that. User added to role event. And otherwise, I think we can leave it pretty much the same. So we're going to do that. While we're at it, because I know I'm going to use it in a minute, user removed from role event. This is a little bit yagmy. You ain't going to need it because I'm doing stuff that I'm not actually building right this second, but it's alright. We'll go with it. Alright, so in here now, this event now becomes user added. Oh, come on, IntelliSense. New user added to role event. Oh, you know what? I don't have that namespace on this file. It's right here. User using that there. Okay, good. And I also don't have dispatcher. So let's go back over to register, and let's steal that code that has the dispatcher. We'll just grab the read-only field, because I need that for the thing to work, and then I can control dot on that and say yes, use my interface, and then control dot again and say yes, no. That's not what I want. It's supposed to say initialize from constructor, but it's not. So I gotta type this myself and then add this down here like that. And we don't really need all that. That looks better. Alright, so we'll build that. Thank you for the follow, xClouds. Appreciate it. Okay, so type input does not exist. That's not what it's called. It's called, well, unfortunately, it's called, I guess it's going to be user dot. Alright, so user dot email, and don't even have to exclamation point it. That's good. Alright, so now that should work. And my web server that's running over here should be doing its thing. It's running again. Okay. Now it's not actually going to send anything to Discord yet. Let's see where that happens. So in infrastructure, I can define handlers for these events. So let's look at these events one last time. This is a base domain event. New user registered. We're using user added. That should be added. Rename. User added to role. That's better. Except your rename is not smart enough to rename the file. Added. Alright, so events should always be past tense because it already happened. And we're going to handle this thing that happened in the past in a handler. So I need a handle, an iHandle of T type that uses user added to role event. And so in my infrastructure project, because this is going to talk to external resources, specifically Discord, I'm going to add another handler that looks a lot like one of these. Here's our new user registered one. And we're going to create a handler that implements iHandle of that type. So once again, we're going to just copy paste this whole thing. Discord log user added to role handler, which becomes a user added to role event. That event is going to be also down here. That name is going to be also right there. We're going to move this to its own file, so we're there. User added to role handler. Here we are. And then we just want to give it the message that we want to send. And it turns out we actually want to know more in our event than we are currently asking, because I'm going to want to know what role they were added to. So user domain event dot email added to role toll domain event dot role, which doesn't exist yet. So alright, so we'll save that. Let's go back to our event User added to role string email string role name. Just string role. That's fine. Create a property role. Alright, looks good. Let's do the same thing here. Good. We'll build. It's going to tell me that I can't create this event with only one parameter. Right there. And now I can take that role.name that's right there and use it here as well. And everything should be happy. Alright, let's build. And yes, I could make this just send an email, but I think logging it to Discord is just a little bit cooler. It's a little more instant. And I don't really want an email every time somebody gets added to a role. That's like, you know, a little silly. But getting it in Discord is something I can just kind of glance at and then ignore. Is kind of interesting. And it just lets me know that stuff works. Right? So eventually I'll probably turn these things off or have some kind of way to configure notifications. But for now I'm having fun with the Discord integration. So let's test it, shall we? We need to go to a browser here and find our 51815 there and go back to admin, and this should all still be working. All right, here's our actual logging happening in the console. Don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. Alright, so we'll keep this and just verify logging is happening. Good. Alright, so let's go view, add a role, select members, add role. And it worked. It didn't blow up. That's good. And down here under admin updates, user Steve added role members. I should probably say 2 there. Alright, so it's almost good. That was too easy, right? So let's go find my handler here. Added 2 role members. Perfect. Okay, and now the removal part is super easy, and so is the adding, right? All the other stuff we have we can keep. Let's finish one thing at a time. Let's finish doing the adds. So in role, there's similar code. So what I need are these 2 lines. And really what I probably want to do is pull all this stuff out into some service that just does this, right? And get this out of my Razor page. So maybe I'll do that eventually. But now, here, where I want to add a post to add a user to a role, it's basically the exact same code here. I should be able to paste this in and have it work, right? This will need a namespace. This dispatcher doesn't exist again here, so I just need to add it. Let's try adding it this way this time. See if that's better. So we'll go up here to the constructor. We'll add it to the end of our list of arguments there, and pull in its namespace, and then automatically assign it to a field. Alright, it only took 2 keystrokes instead of having to type stuff, so that's good, because I am lazy. Okay, so that should work. So let's build that guy. I don't even think I need to build it. I think .NET Watch Run was building it for me. But now let's go back here. Let's just refresh this page to make sure we're running and on the latest, and that seemed to work. And we're going to remove me from the members. Yes. Alright, now let's go back to Discord. And nothing happened. Sad. Because I skipped a step. We didn't add a handler. So we need a handler for that. So Discord log user added to role handler needs a twin for removal. Discord log user removed from role handler. And it's going to take a user... Oh wait, no, that's not right. I don't need to do this. We haven't gotten to removal yet. Removed from... I am going to need this in a minute, but this isn't what I need right now. This is why you don't start down other paths before you're done with the first one, because now I'm just confusing myself. But I don't want to get rid of that code just yet, so I'm going to keep it around. Okay, so we are in the role Razor page, which is right here. And we said, oh, I was looking for removal. It was add that I haven't tested. Alright, we're good. We're going to test that add works. And I'm out of roles. to add. So let's remove another role. And then from the roles page, we need to go to the roles page. So admin, this is users. Let's view roles. Let's view everybody in the administrator's roles. Now I'm on the role page right there. I want to add a user, and we're going to add Steve and add. Now this is my test, right? And that should have worked, and it just did, right? At exactly 1 p.m. Right? So that's the one that just worked. Perfect. Okay, now let's go and get remove working. Okay. So for that, we're most of the way there, right? We need to come in here. We need to say remove. We'll do this. We can say user removed from that role and dispatch that event. User removed event, let's call it. Do that and that. This new user event really ought to be user added to role event also. Alright, so now those match up. That's in role. Let's go to user while we're at it. Do much the same thing. On post add user. New user event is user added to role event. Rename it. Take that, copy it, come down here, paste it. User removed from. User removed from. Rename. Dispatch that. Everything's good. Alright, build. Let's verify our handler looks good. User removed from role. Handler. User removed from role. This needs to say removed from. User blank. Removed from role blank. Good. Alright, so let's test that out. I've saved it. I shouldn't even have to build it because this .NET run watch is building every time I change something. So theoretically, removal should immediately start working. Remove from administrators. I probably don't want to remove everybody from administrators because then I won't be able to use this thing. So let's add that person back in. Okay, and let's see what we got. So admin test was removed. Admin test was added. Easy, easy. All right. Let's go here and see if we have in fact completed this issue. Raise an event when a user is added to a role. Create an event handler. Notify. Done. Done. We went beyond. Also notify when removed from roles. Alright, that's 49. So let's go create a pull request. So back here, git status, git add. Anybody have any questions? You guys are being nice and quiet today. Questions about domain events, questions about what I'm doing, questions about dev better, questions about anything. We can have some interactivity here. Let's see. Git push. Okay, we go up to pull request. Remember, we're on 49. I'm going to say it fixes that, so compare fixes number 49. Cool. And add events notifications, that sounds good. Create that pull request. And we'll let it build before we merge it, just to be safe. Now, we didn't add any tests for this, which we probably should have. And I really want to probably pull that stuff into an application service. You know, sometimes I like to ask questions that I already know the answer to because I think other people would benefit from the answer. And if you ask a question that makes it look like you don't know stuff that you probably ought to know, you can always just kind of say, well, I was actually just asking that in case anybody else needed to know that answer. It's a good tip. What happens if add remove fails? Will the event still be dispatched? That is an excellent question. Depends how it fails. If it fails explosively with an exception, then no, they won't be dispatched because they are following it, right? And so if this thing blows up for whatever reason, then it'll throw an exception and this code will never get executed. Ardalis, are you rolling your own custom domain eventing or something like Mediate, which I think you mean Mediator? This is custom. It's actually written by the same guy that wrote Mediator. So this domain event dispatcher ships with my clean architecture template that I talked about earlier. And it's got a couple comments here showing you where this code came from way back in like 2014 from a Jimmy Bogard blog post. So it's been evolved from that. These are just sort of like the origins of it if somebody wanted to learn more and to kind of show my work and give credit. But that's where you can see how it does its thing. You could use Mediator for this. I've had this as part of the template for a few years now, and I never have bothered to swap it out. ESL Minecraft, thanks for following. What does host me do? I don't even know what that command does. DeMartin O'Connor subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thank you. I think I saw that earlier, but just in case. Okay, so I think I've killed enough time for my build to pass. So let's go back here. Ooh, that's not good. Checks failed. Why did my check fail? It works locally. Works on my machine. Yeah, that's why the test was commented out, because it can't run on the build server. Okay. I need a note or something on those integration tests. Or I need to just change them to use a different data source. Alright, so we're going to say this, and a note that says doesn't run on build server for that guy. And we'll do the same thing for this home controller one that I changed. Build those. Well, let's do a commit and a push, and then I'll add an issue to fix that. So git add everything, git commit, coming out integration tests that fail on build server, push, that fixes the build. Meanwhile, we'll go back to issues and add a new issue. Configure integration tests to use a fake data source on build server. Currently, the integration tests blow up because there is no database to connect to on the build server. Configure them with an alternate data source. Boom. Alright. Now, let's go back to our actions. Let's see how our build is doing now. So this is still running. And our build. Let's see if we get past this. Open up. It won't expand. I really think it ought to expand. I don't really want to move on until I know this works. Hey, look, it expanded. I didn't even touch it. 30 tests successful. Alright. Job complete. Sweet. Alright, so now that's good. Now it's going to do the deploy. Alright, here's the publish. Publish. Last published 30 minutes ago. You should probably be publishing now. What are you doing? Come on, I want to test this out in production. Why isn't it publishing? Oh, shoot, I'm an idiot. I have to merge it into master. Ha ha ha. You have CD, yes. Surly Dev, CI/CD set up to update your website, correct. But it doesn't do it all totally automatically. I have to actually merge the stupid thing. So, because I'm sitting here waiting to merge it, it's not going to publish it. Now it's going to publish it. Alright, don't need that branch anymore. Delete. Go back to actions, and let's watch it publish. There it is. Publishing, build, deploy. And it's going to do the whole process again just to be safe, but it's going to deploy here in a minute, so we'll test it out in production. Meanwhile, back to my machine, we can do git checkout, if I could spell, checkout minus to go to master, and pull. Now I'm back up to the latest on master. When you delete the branch on GitHub after merging, that doesn't delete the branch in your local repo, does it? No. So if I do git branch -a, remember I was on this branch here, this long notify when users blah blah blah, and I deleted that on GitHub. That should still be here. And I hate the fact that they want to use this red on blue, and highlighting it's not much better, but that's it right there. Alright, now there's a way to prune it, which I always have to Google for. It's like git fetch -- prune or something like that. I think that's it. And so what that does is clean up branches you have locally that aren't out there. So you can do that to get rid of the ones that are local. So if you type git branch now, but now you can -d instead of -d to force it. Okay, yeah, that's true. I could just delete it. But yes, I could also just do a git prune. So somewhere in here it actually shows, I don't know, there, that. You can do a dry run. It'll show you what it's going to do, which I never use that, but let's try it. Yeah, that didn't tell me anything. What's the difference between prune and delete? Well, if you do, I think it's git pull -prune that I want, not git prune. Or git fetch -prune. Yeah, so let's go here. Git fetch prune. Before fetching, remove any remote tracking references that no longer exist on the remote. Alright, so that's what that does. So fetch will do what fetch normally does and fetch all the things. So it's git fetch -- prune. I think you can do dry run on this too, just to see. Maybe? I don't know if dry run worked or not. I'll tell you in a second. But see, it deleted all these local branches. So that cleanup is one I just did. This notify thing was one I just did. These other ones are older ones I had laying around that the branches were already gone. So if you do that, yeah, fetch -- prune, it's a really quick way to just clean up your local branches. And I said dry run, right? So it didn't actually do it. Right? You see these are all still here. If I do it again now without dry run's a good thing to know too, because it's like you kind of want to preview what you're going to do before you do it. But now it really deleted them, and now this is a much shorter list. Well, it still seems like it has a few of them. Like there's password reset, and there's password reset. But is it a shorter list? It did get rid of that one. It says it got rid of that one, but that one's still there. It's weird. I think I have some of these links or some of those branches are still out there. I could probably clean up. Let's go out here, everything deployed. We'll test that in a second. Let's go out to our code. Let's look at our branches here. And I have my branches. That one was merged, so I can delete it. And that one was merged, so I can delete it. And then I don't know about this one. It's email notifications. Perhaps I'm working on that somewhere else. But with those deletions now, let's see if I have any stale ones listed here. No. Now I can come back here one more time and do another git fetch prune, git branch, and it's a little shorter now. Alright. Alright, so let's test our thing in production now. That's localhost. Here's production. I am logged in, and I'm going to jump this over to the other screen so as not to share too much with you. But we'll go to admin in production. And I will add and remove someone from a role just to see if it shows up in Discord. So here's Discord. Incidentally, admin at test.com in production doesn't work. Shockingly, right? Because that would be bad if it did. So we'll add admin at test.com to the members role in production. Add. And I just clicked it and poof, you just saw it. Let's remove them from that role on the user page. Done. Now let's go to the role page. So go back to admin, go back to roles. Huh. I can't actually go to the role page. That's weird. That's not happening in localhost. Yeah. So let's bring this back over here. In production, when I hit this, it doesn't actually list the roles. Which I think I've seen that before. So I think that's a bug somehow in production. Which makes it tough for me to test that part in production. So we may just have to live with not doing that test right this second. Alright, so back in production, the drop down's there. Let me see browser tools if I'm getting anything on the console. Bootstrap's drop downs require popper.js. That's definitely the issue. Alright, so whatever popper.js is, it doesn't like that. It doesn't have a reference to that. Interesting. Alright, so let's copy that and go back here. The only thing I'm trying to hide from you is like my list of email addresses of members, because that's like private. So that's why I'm taking a screen offline. Let's go here and let's add that bug. Finding bugs faster than I'm fixing them. Role drop down fails in production, gives this error in console. Boom. I didn't write this. Joe wrote this. Let's see what Joe has to say about this. Label, it's a bug. I would like help. Alright. Alright. Let's go back to issues. And anything in here? Let's clean up the code a little bit so we get rid of some duplication. That's, I think, the next most important thing to do. Alright, so in... and then we've got, what, like 40 minutes? That's more than enough time. So let's create a new branch. Let's make sure we're still got the latest. Check out a branch, Ardalis / refactor role code. Okay. Now let's look at this and think about what we've got. Here is role, and here's user. And you should be pinned. Okay. So we have on post add user, and let's make this a new vertical document. Duplicate code is not your friend. And in this one, we have on post add user role async. Here we have on post add user role async. Takes string and string, string. Uses user manager and role, same. Checks for if they're null, same. Add role, it's literally the same code. One difference is where it redirects to. Alright, so I want to get rid of all this code and replace it with a service. What should that service be? I already have a role manager and a user manager, so why would I want to duplicate that right? Well, I want to get rid of all this code and get rid of all this duplication and consolidate it at a higher level. And user manager and role manager right now don't have an interface that just takes in 2 strings and does what I need. So I just need that, right? Now, whatever this service is, it's going to have dependencies of user manager and role manager. It's going to have to inject those. So I can't put it in my core project when we're thinking about where this belongs. I can't put it in core because I want core not to have any dependencies like that. It shouldn't know about ASP.NET. It shouldn't know about the built-in ASP.NET Core identity stuff that these things live in. It could certainly live in infrastructure, right? And that would be fine. I don't know if this currently has knowledge about that package, but I could add it if it doesn't. Microsoft ASP.NET Core identity, yeah, so it already knows about identity in here anyway. So I think that's probably where I would put it. There's already an identity folder here. What is auth constants? Good question. That's just where I put some default stuff, mostly for seed data and for role names and things. So I didn't want to have strings everywhere for my role names. So I have my administrator's role is a constant, and the member's role is a constant. And then my default password that I use in my localhost config is in here as well, just so it's not a magic string everywhere in my system, like in my seed data. Okay, so I want to create a role management service or something like that, and use that. So let's create an interface for it. Now the interface should belong inside of core, and it should be pretty simple. We'll say public interface user role membership service. How about that? And we're C#, so we'll put an I in front of it. And I want that to look exactly like what this thing wants, which is add user to role async that returns a task, right? So task add user to role async string user ID string role ID. All right, and in a moment we're also going to want the remove from, so we'll do that one too. Task remove user from role async string user ID string role ID. I'd really rather not be passing in 2 strings like that, but it is what it is for now. Thanks for the follow, LTFFL. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move this to its own file. Keep that nice and clean. My member registration service, I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to need it in a second. Let's close that down. And let's pin this back on so we can see where we are. We'll go down to services. And we'll go and add a new service here. Public class that. And we're going to call it ASP.NET Core Identity Member Registration Service. That's the wrong one. I use a role membership service. Grab the wrong one in my copy pasting rush. So it's that. And let's make it's that without the I. Alright. Give it that. Implement that. Move that. And now we're good to go. We've got our add here. And we can go back to role here. And here's our post. And we can take all this code and copy it out of there and go in here and paste it in. And it should just about work. Now I need to add async to these because when you implement an interface, even if it has tasks and it says async at the end, you would think Visual Studio would be smart enough to see this and add this, but it's not, at least not yet. What do I use for auth? JWT? No, I'm just using the built-in identity for ASP.NET Core. So I don't have any APIs. I don't have a front-end client. There's no mobile app. There's no Angular. So there's no APIs that need tokens. That may come, but for now it's all just cookie-based with identity. Okay, so returning bad requests, that's not going to work. So we'll need to change that a little bit. But that's fine, because if I just raise an exception, it will still return a bad request. What it should do is have a user not found or role not found exception though, and so I'll probably modify that to do that. I do need these user manager and role manager types though, so let me come in here and steal all of this, because I'm going to need all those types. Come back to here, paste this in, change the name of the constructor to match my class name, and control dot my way to success. Alright, so with that, copy paste and 2 control dots, we've got all our dependencies. We need link. Actually, I keep thinking that's link, but that's actually an EF core. This first or default async is an EF core extension method. And then we're left with this. So for now, we're going to say throw new exception, user role combination not found. Should almost never happen, but do that. And we need another namespace there. And we're good. Alright, and then this needs to be about the same. I want to test the other one first though, so let's just leave this like this. Actually, let's just leave it the way it was, the way it builds. Alright, so with this service, what I should be able to do is inject an user role membership service into role here. We'll just add it onto the end, keep everything else for now. And this is a user role membership service. Control dot create a field. And I've only implemented get for now. So let's go down here. And this should just, I said get. I've only implemented add for now, not get. Sorry, I was reading something as I went by. This is the user role membership service. Dot add user role async user ID role ID. I'm going to await on that. All this code goes away, and this should still do what it did before. Now the way I'll know if it did what it did before is I'll go to role on localhost and add someone to a role. So let's go to my localhost browser. Let's pull Discord over here. Get over there. Click down here. Go to the web. Make sure we're on localhost. Go to roles. Go to members. Add someone. Add a user. Add Steve to this. And look at this. User Steve was added. Alright, so that just exercised our new service. Given that we have that service, now we can take that exact same code and go back to the user page, where it also has a post add users thing that has all of this code, and replace it, and likewise grab our service right here, and go to user and add it to its constructor right here. Control dot, initialize the field, build it, and that should work. And then let's do the remove. So looking here at what we do in a remove, on post remove, we need this code. Go back to our service, paste this in there, make this async. Everything else just works. Use the same exception for now. I'm going to make that better in a moment. Maybe. Or maybe I'll just leave it. Build that. And it all works. Now back to role and user. Swap that thing out. So instead of all that code, we want just this code here. And instead of add user to, we want remove user from. Copy that, go back to user. Here it is, paste that, build. Alright, now remove, Check Discord. User was removed. That's still working. That's on the role page. Go back to the user page. Here's the user page. Go view, remove, remove. That's on the user page, and it was removed. So we got rid of some duplication, cleaned things up a little bit. We're not quite done yet, because we might be able to get rid of some of the stuff entirely. For instance, that dispatcher is no longer used, which is good, because we don't want our pages to have to know about low-level things like event dispatching. So we'll pull that out of user and probably role. And there's role, so it no longer needs to know about that. Did I get all three of those over here? No, I missed one. There. Alright. The service we know we need. The user manager and the role manager. Yeah, this is the quarantine beard. You got it, Eric. User manager, role manager are both used here and here. So the only way I'm going to get rid of those is if I pull their logic into that service. And since these are reads, these are basically read operations, and my service is only concerned right now with actually managing membership in roles. It's mostly doing writes. User role membership service. Add and remove. I don't think I really want to do list methods there, so I'm gonna leave them the way they are for now. Don't really like it because it's like these are a lower level of abstraction than this is, but I don't want to dig into that just yet with this commit. Should I bother with a custom exception? Do I have any custom exceptions? I don't. This is a good opportunity just to have some custom exceptions, I think. So let's just do that just so we have them. So we're going to add a new folder called exceptions. Do it. And we'll say add a new class, and this is going to be a user not found exception, and make that public and have it inherit from exception, and then give it a message, I guess, where we can pass in the user that was not found. And actually we'll say string user, what will we know? I guess one other ID. String user ID, and we'll call base with dollar user ID not found. Like that. Alright. And while we're at it, let's do the same with role. Must declare a body. What? It doesn't like this, does it? It's fine with that. Can't do string interpolation there? Can't do anything there. Huh. Well, let's just leave it as a message for now, and if I can figure out a smarter way to mess with that, I will. No, it doesn't like that either. What did I screw up here? Let's get rid of that. I want this thing to inherit from that thing. And I would like it to have a constructor. That. And I'm going to build. Yes, no semicolon, I think. Look at chat. Semicolon on end. Thank you. That was delayed. That totally wasn't there a second ago. Alright. Sorry. Okay, so do we think that with whatever semicolon thingy was there that I've lost at this point, that this will work? Can I do what I wanted to do? I thought I could do this. And then not that. God's gift to Earth. God's gift to Earth is here. Wow. That is awesome. I feel blessed. Boom. You got a question for Java. Well, you've come to the right place. Let me tell you how much I know about Java. Alright, I'm done. Alright, shoot. Go ahead. Ask. Somebody here on the chat knows more than I do. They'll help you. We're going to do a roll not found while we're here. Is this word allowed here? Ha 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 sha. Hush hush hush. Move to your own place. Alright. So I got these custom exceptions. Let's wire these things up. Let's blow up the world. What did I just do? Alright. I really didn't like that things are running right now. That's better. Okay. Must have been caught right at the moment that .NET was building the other thing in my console. Alright. Go ahead, God's gift. Ask your question, man. Or woman. Person. Yeah, so in my service, which is here, if user equals null, I'll just do this right here. If user equals null, throw new user not found exception with user ID. That will right away end up as a bad request. And here we'll do the roll. Roll. Right, and we're doing this all over the place. You know, basically needs two places here, so that should do the trick. So I got a class for main car and another class extending main car called rental car. My main car works with taking GUI data and putting it in a database, but the additional info from the extended rental car class doesn't work. Alright. Depending on how you're storing stuff in the database, it's possible that the code that's running in your base class doesn't know anything about the code that's in your subclass, your rental car, and thus doesn't call anything to store it. You need to override your save method on your base class, add the additional logic into your child class, so that both sets of instructions end up getting called. It's better to don't use exceptions for wrong password or not possible to log in, just return object or action result. Exceptions are slow and return call stack. Yeah, but this site, well, first, I'm not doing anything with passwords. And yes, exceptions should only happen for things that are exceptional. My user interface, which you've seen for this, should only ever show me valid roles, right? So if I actually end up calling that thing and I'm passing in a role ID that doesn't exist, that's exceptional. Something's really wrong. I don't want to just log that. No, I want to blow up, because that means my application has serious problems. This is not just, you know, the user mistyped something. There's no typing here, right? These roles are all fixed. They're constants. So there's nothing in here where someone could fat finger the instructions. It's not a password. So I am perfectly happy for these to be exceptions in these scenarios, right? God's gift continues and says, I initialized the new class method, but maybe I will check. All right, go check. All right, so we cleaned up the duplication that was in those pages. We shrunk those pages down substantially. Let's create a pull request now. I think we're in good shape. What I don't have is any tests for this, and I probably should. Maybe we have time for that. We'll see. Now that it's in its own service, it's starting to become more testable. These are not going to be easy to test, though. That's the thing. That's why, you know, I'm hesitant to bother writing tests for this, just because those are painful to test. Alright, let's just do our pull request now. So in here, let's see what we changed. That looks about right. Let's add it all. Created a user role membership service. User role membership service. That's good enough. No. Here we go. I'm using this for not exceptions, just returning source not found. Yeah, what I would probably move toward in this scenario, if I wanted to map this into a not found instead of a well, it's not a bad request. What is a server error? Is I would use my result extension, my result type. So if I go out to GitHub again, /Ardalis/result, this thing is what I would use. Here's a sample of it. And there's an action filter that will look for a result status of not found and then set the context result on the controller to not found. So then in here, when I make some call to some page, do I do that somewhere? So this has the filter on it, and this calls weather service get forecast. So then where is weather service? Yeah, I don't know where weather service is. Oh, there it is in the feature. No, that's that. Anyway, somewhere weather service returns back. Oh, here it is. In the model, there it is. Weather forecast. No, that's the type. There's weather service. Bam. So weather service returns back a result of T. And if it can't find it, it returns back a result dot not found. And then that's used. There's a class from Microsoft called Action Result for this. Yeah, but it's built around Web API. So this is totally independent of Web API. So you don't need to use something that's meant for the web. You can use this for any service, totally agnostic of whether it's going to be used from the web. So if you're going to use gRPC or REST or just local method calls, however it is you want to call it, you can use the same abstractions of action result, right? And that's where the name result is pretty close to that, right? To do that. And so you can see things like, what are my options here? Success and error and invalid and not found and forbidden, right? Basically the same types of things you have on action result, but now it's not coupled to ASP.NET Core or HTTP or any of that stuff. But because they're similar, right? That's what makes it so it's super easy now to map it using a filter. So in here, the filter is in here too, I think, so that you can just, or maybe you have to add the filter yourself. I don't remember. But somewhere, yeah, here's the filter. You just add this filter and it does the mapping for you from your result type to the action result type. Alright. And so point of that is that yes, I would probably eventually, if I didn't like the fact that this was an exception, I could use this as a result type. And so the other reason I can't do that is because this is coming from Microsoft's code, right? This is Microsoft's user manager, so there's only so much I can do. But if this was my code, I could have it return back a result type. And I could have this thing return a result if I wanted. But again, if either the user or the role don't exist when you call this thing, I want to just blow up. I don't want to return a not found in the browser, because the user's not going to expect that. The user's not going to be like, okay, hit this drop down, add them to the role, and the page comes back and says 404. They're going to be like, what? Yeah, that makes no sense. Right, this isn't an API, this is a Razor page. So 404 doesn't make sense in a page in this scenario. Alright, so yeah, I think we were good. I pushed. It's time to do a pull request. So back up here, back in here, back to pull request. Refactor the role code, parent pull request. Create that member service. I don't really have an issue to tie this to. Added interface, added custom exceptions, removed duplication from role and user pages. God's gift to Earth says, yes, I think you are correct. Look, I am a Java expert. Create the pull request. Okay. So I can merge this. But wait, there we go. Now comes the checks. I will wait for the checks. Car controller class only has main car. Nothing about rental car. That's okay. Your controller shouldn't know about the details of that. It should follow polymorphism. So that's fine. If I'm assuming when you say controller, you're talking about like an MVC controller that knows about the main car, but you could just use a rental car and it should all still work. That's how it's supposed to work, right? That's what polymorphism does for you. But what you need to make sure of is that somewhere handler class. Okay. Handler. Not controller. Okay. Well, without seeing your code, I'm just guessing here. But you just want to make sure that somewhere you've got a call that says save all the things about main car. And when you implement rental car, you need to make sure that it has an override of that. Or you can use composition and it can delegate to it as another alternative. But it needs to include its logic too. Right? So if maybe rental car needs to save all the things about the main car, but also the rental agency name, right? Or the contracted date or whatever. Right? Well, it needs to have the code to save those things. And then also save everything else about the car. And you shouldn't duplicate that logic. It should delegate to the car logic, the main car logic to do that. Does that help? Hopefully. Matter of fact, here, I'll help you out. We'll write some code here in Java++, also known as C#. So if I have a public class main car, and it has some important things like wheel count, right? And look at this cool Java feature of auto properties. They're going to get that in Java 72, I think. Then I can say, I can also spell, I could say I've got a rental car. It inherits from main car. Right, and we'll get to that in a minute. But somewhere in here, I've got this public void save changes, which is not the way I would typically write code, but it sounds like this is what you've got, right? And so in here, you're going to say, open DB connection, and then create an update statement, and then say, update car set wheel count equals at this dot wheel count or whatever, right? And do some stuff. Now I'm going to make this virtual, which is necessary in C#. I think it's in Java. I think it's virtual by default. And then down here, I'm going to override that. And I'm going to say, well, I also need to know public string agency name, right? Get set. And now in my override of save changes, I'm going to still call base.save changes because I don't want to duplicate that code. Right? So I still want all this to happen. Right? And down here we can say close DB connection just to make sure we're good. But I can take this logic here, and I'm okay with reopening the database and reclosing it because you should be using connection pulling. It shouldn't be a big performance issue. But now we can update car set, and just to be really clear here, where ID equals, at ID, right? Don't forget the where statement or you'll be sad. But now, and I'll look at chat in just a second, this would see set, agency name equals this dot agency name, and it would do the trick. Right? That's one way to do it. All right. So maybe I need to do another list or database by rental and append it somehow. Okay, so this is what override. I've seen this before. This is what is used. So it matches the ID. Well, yeah, your main car should have an ID so you know what it is, right? So in addition to all its other properties, it should also have a public int or GUID or whatever ID, right? And then that's what this is, right? So this is, obviously this is fake code, but it's close to what you want. Right, so then the other question is, in your storage, you're using inheritance in your object model, but there's no such thing as inheritance in SQL Server or in whatever database you're using, probably, unless you're using a document database. So you've got some table called cars or main car or something like that, um, and it may or may not have rental car columns on it, right? So Postgres, okay. So if it does have columns for rental car, then this all works just the way I showed it, right? But maybe it has a different table. Maybe it has a rental cars table, right? In which case you need to update the rental cars table where the agency name stuff is stored and set that, right? At which point there's maybe a one-to-one relationship between those two tables. All right, but you're telling me it's got all the things. All right, so that's the most common scenario. That's what most people do, is they just put all the columns on this, even if it doesn't need them. And so even though main car doesn't have an agency name, because it doesn't know about that, it's going to have on its table, it's going to have an ID and whatever other properties and whatever other these properties, right? And these are probably all just null if it's not a rental car, is typically how it works. It's not necessarily the best design for your database, but it's awfully common. So it's not strange to do it that way. Does that help? Just for a school assignment? This sounds a lot like a school assignment. If so, good luck on your school assignment. All right. Yep, for class. Tell your teacher C#'s better than Java. All right. Let's go back. We got about 10 minutes. Let's just do open questions. Anybody got questions? Anybody want to join Dev Better? You're welcome. It's a good group that we've got right now. Let's review. Oh, I didn't merge this. Let's finish merging this. It checked. So merge, squash. All right, 4 minutes from now, that'll be updated. Did not add any new functionality, just refactored. So the site won't change any. Delete the branch. Clean up my local. I can do a git checkout dash. Right there. And I get fetch dash dash prune. We'll get rid of it. And a pull to get me on the latest again. Good. Not a Java class, a coding class. Alright, well that's good. I've used Java. My daughter is just graduating from high school and she had a Java class that she was taking and I had to use Eclipse to look at some of the stuff she was doing. And it made me appreciate Visual Studio. Alright. These are good. Any other questions from people? I'm going to get back to doing some real work in a little bit. Let's see who else is up and running here right now. I think maybe Mark would be a good person for us to raid. So he's always got some fun stuff going on. He's building a game of some sort here in C#. So check out what he's doing. His stream has a lot more things going on in it. I'm on my home machine, so my OBS setup is limited to well, it's very simple. I'll even show it to you, right? Like if I can get it over to this other monitor. So it literally just has my webcam, my displays, and this chat box in it. Whereas my work one, it has a green screen and a bunch of other stuff. Has a lot more things going on and interesting stuff for the stream, but I'm not going to the office during quarantine, so for now, this is where we are. Alright, so I appreciate everybody coming. Hit the follow button if you want to get notified next time I go online. I've been trying to stream at some different times besides this one because there tend to be a ton of people on Friday afternoon. As you can see from here, right? Like, this is crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, plus me. Am I in that list? I'm not even in that list. Why am I not in this list? I should totally be on that list. That's weird. You're welcome for the stream, Boker 2Man. Steve, are you focusing only on server-side development? Yeah, usually. I'm pretty much a back-end developer for the most part, so C Sharp, Web APIs, ASP.NET Core, server-side, all the way. Um, I know enough to be dangerous with front-end development. I've got a few apps that use Angular, and I've looked at React, and I haven't learned it well enough to be really good at it. But most of my work is definitely going to be on the architecture and back end side of things. C Sharp's what I'm really good at. Thanks for following God's Gift to Earth. Appreciate it. Um, Tony Davis says, Steve, in microservices architecture, how do you recommend HTTP client configuration? Are you using HTTP client factory with typed clients? Sometimes. Um, there's some new stuff happening with IHTTP client factory, relatively new with what was it .NET Core 3 that they introduced that. Um, and so you can change that. The biggest one is if you know that you want to be resilient to failures, you can introduce things like poly into that. So if you probably already know poly, but poly microservices. What what is poly? So this is poly, and it basically gives you the ability to apply some cloud design patterns easily. Um, Most importantly, being retry logic. But it'll also do stuff like adaptively wait for a certain amount of time, a random amount of time before trying again. It also does the circuit breaker design pattern, which is another good one. And while I'm at it, let's look at this cloud design patterns list that Microsoft has. It talks about these things, specifically the circuit breaker pattern is an important one to know for microservices. Poly implements this for you. So you should check this out. It basically makes it so that you don't flood a service with requests when it's down, and when it tries to come back up, all these things are still hammering it, and it can prevent it from coming up. So what Circuit Breaker does is it says, okay, if a certain number of failures happen, I'm going to open the circuit. And remember, in a circuit, open means that it's not working. Closed means that electricity can flow. So when it's open, that means nothing is hitting that service, right? So the service which was down is now just sitting there and nothing is hitting it. Everything in your system is just assuming it's down and just driving on with whatever its error state might be, or it's waiting, right? It might be doing a wait or a retry, but it's waiting for this thing to be closed and serviceable again, not hitting it, right? Not actually hitting it. When it's half open, which I don't like this name, it's more like tentatively open, right? It says, okay, let a request or two through, see if they work, right? And if they fail, then it goes right back to open because it's not ready yet. But if they succeed, and if a number of them succeed, then it will go back into the closed state, and this is the standard successful state. So it's a good pattern, and it's already built into Poly along with the retry one. Right, and retry is pretty standard. All right, so those are things that I would reference or recommend rather for resiliency, and you can work those into how you do your HTTP client factory stuff if you want that to be consistent across the board for how your microservices communicate over HTTP, which should probably be the exception, not the rule. Because if you do have a collection of microservices that all need to communicate with one another and they all communicate over HTTP, it's really easy for you to have a cascading failure, either of actual failure where one of them's down so all the other ones are down, or worse, sometimes one of them is slow and so everything is slow. All right, if they're down, it's usually easier for you to react to that than if they're just slow. If they're slow, everything can slow down, and a lot of your monitoring won't necessarily detect that immediately because your monitoring is usually looking for status codes and things like that, not necessarily that something has started to creep up in terms of how long it's taking, maybe because of memory pressure or some resource leak or something like that. Maybe I should do a stream just about architecture and cloud design patterns sometime. That's not quite as much fun for me as actually writing code for my open source projects, but if people would want to hear about that, I could certainly do it. And when I have these little ask me anything bits, you're all welcome to ask about that. So I'm writing a microservice template, trying to determine if I should add these policies as opt-in or opt-out. That's a good question. I think having them as an option is certainly a good thing, right? To make it easier for people to adopt these types of patterns easily throughout the system in a consistent way, um, probably I would make them opt out, right? Because if you don't have a retry pattern in place, your thing's just going to blow up. And if you do have a retry pattern, then it's going to try a couple times and then it's going to blow up. So it's not going to really change the behavior all that much. Same thing with the circuit breaker. Um, the behavior is going to mostly be the same, and you know the behavior, if this was in place versus if it weren't, is just better, right? There's no trade-off here. It's either service A needs service B is down, and so I just keep hammering it, possibly with retry logic, right, until it finally wakes up, and then probably it doesn't wake up very well because it's being hammered by everything multiple times because of retry. Um, if you add the circuit breaker and you say that it's always there unless you opt out, all it does is make it so you have fewer requests and you don't hammer the thing as much. Your network traffic goes down. Your service can restart more effectively, right? So the only trade-off is in complexity, and if you're hiding that complexity in your template, which is a good place for it, then I would totally make that opt out. I think, as I think about it. Does that help, Tony? And Jeeper978 says, please do it. All right, well, maybe I will. You're a founder of something. I don't know. Did you found Twitch? I don't know what these badges mean. What did you found, Jeeper? You have a cool badge. I need to figure out how to get badges. Are these streams recorded? Yes. They go on my YouTube after a little while. Does that work? It used to work. Where's my bot? I'm supposed to have a Stream Elements bot that pops up and says, hey, here's my YouTube. It's really slow. Anyway, it'll be here. YouTube, whack, Ardalis. Shockingly. So here's last week's. I mean, we're crushing YouTube. They can't handle the traffic that these things get with all the people that want to watch these after I record them. But yeah, it'll be up here in a little bit. This one and every other one I do ends up here. This one actually got a few views, almost into 4 digits. Back when I still shaved. All right. It's after 2 o'clock. I got other work I should be doing, so I'll let you all go. You can find this stuff here. I'm gonna raid Mark. So here's Mark, Code Rushed. We're gonna take whoever all is still here that wants to hang out for a little longer, and we're gonna go say hi to Mark Miller. Let me go to his thing here. No, that's not him. He's Code Rushed here. Because I want to get past the ad. Quiet. I want to get past the ad before I do this. Hey, that was an ATST. Almost. Alright, now I'm going to raid Code Rushed. Start raid. I'll see you all over there in a second.